If you're coming in with very little experience, you have got to be coachable. I said that at the beginning. I'll say, I'll bring it full circle. Please, for the love of it, be coachable.
Welcome back to UNHIREABLE, your podcast for an honest take on early career. I'm Kiera, one of the producers behind the scenes, and I'm here with Maile, our other producer. Matt is joining us, but off camera, and today we're doing something a little different for UNHIREABLE. Kevin is sitting down with Melissa Iington, who, after over 11 years at Amazon in talent acquisition and development, is now the director of global early talent programs at a Fortune 100 tech company. Most of our episodes talk about what early career feels like from the inside, but Melissa is someone who's designing that experience from the employer side. Melissa is not coming from higher ed, she's in industry, and she's here to share how the early career landscape is actually shifting. I'll let Kevin take it from here.
Thanks, Kiera, and thank you so much, Melissa, for joining us and taking the time to really be the first guest we've interviewed on the podcast. No pressure or anything like that, but I just have some pressure on me, actually. Never mind. Let's take that back. I think it'd be great if you could just start by telling us a little bit about kind of who you are and your journey to your current work, and then what it is you do now.
Yeah, absolutely. And before I get started, thank you for having me. I'm really looking forward to our conversation today, and just appreciate you guys taking the time to chat with me. And so about me, I graduated from Texas Tech University, back in 2012. I came out of school with a public relations degree, but didn't end up doing public relations at all, actually. So I went straight into my first role in sales, and that was a short-lived role. It was not quite a fit for me, but I moved into a different sales role at Amazon just 1 year out of school, and I saw a lot of career growth and trajectory while I was growing in my career there. So started out in sales, moved into talent acquisition, and did a number of different types of TA roles in terms of recruiting for high volume, recruiting for some of our corporate roles, non-tech corporate roles, and also leading talent acquisition teams. And then also during my time there, I moved into the early career space and creating development programs and upskilling programs for early career talent of all types of backgrounds. So not just four-year university students, but also for high school graduates, individuals with associate's degrees, and really helping people get started in their careers and grow from there. Now I'm leading global early talent programs, really focused on the development and support of people transitioning out of university during their first year, and ensuring that they are set up for success and have a community around them that is going to enable them to build their network and have a lot of opportunities through those connections as they continue to grow.
That's great. There's like a lot in there. That's really awesome. Can you talk about what in a lot of ways, I think as we talked about in our kind of prep work, there's some parallels between what we're doing in gesture or trying to do, and which is to really prepare them for not just kind of getting a job, but being successful in early career. And then you're explicitly doing that. So can you talk about what it is that you're hoping to sort of develop in those employees, or what are you helping them grow on, and what are you teaching them or helping them learn?
Yeah, I can share a little bit about that, and also some of the things that, we hope that people um, just start to grow in organically
Mm.
during their time as well, outside of maybe a formal program or
Mm-hmm.
support function. But again, I think there's an opportunity, and I experienced this as an individual transitioning out of university and going into a role in a company where there was a lot of turnover, not a lot of support and investment in helping people succeed. And it was a really hard, honestly, first year out of school for me. And I think that my personal experience there, and knowing that how hard that was personally, how difficult it was to see that growth and see and imagine what my future at a company like that could be, really has influenced how I look at early career programs and supporting people transitioning out of university now. And I think it's so important to create community for people. I had that community in my first year after I transitioned to Amazon, and it wasn't quite the same as what we're doing now. But I can say that having a group of people around you who are in a similar stage of life, even if you're embedded into a team with a lot of industry and very experienced people and colleagues that you can learn from, still having a community and network around you of people who have um, either are going through that with you, or people who have recently gone through that and have seen career growth or opportunities come from it is really important when you're transitioning out of school, in terms of finding success, being happy and fulfilled in your work as well. And so I don't know if that's necessarily directly answering your question there, but I do think that the community aspect and investing in people and giving them opportunities through connections, through some of the soft skills as well in terms of goal setting and how to, make your own personal brand and how to show up at work. Those are all
Hmm.
things that are, they're more in the soft skill space or some of the intangibles there, but really important when it comes to long-term success and trajectory.
So in the work that you do now, what kind of things concretely do? Are they workshops, or is there kind of a what is it exactly concretely that you do for a new employee when they come into the company and kind of along the path that you're talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. We have basically a whole series of events,
Mm.
and they're pretty large scale events and learning workshops at the end of the day to bring people together. So
Hmm.
that's really what it is. It's investing in people through bringing them together in person to meet each other
Mm.
with facilitators, external speakers, internal leadership speakers, alumni that have gone through the program, and having a lot of different activities and learning and volunteer opportunities for folks to engage in.
That sounds great. So I wonder if, and we talked a little bit about this in our prep, kind of dig into um, where we'd want to, or how we would see this growth in early career employees. So let's say when they make this transition, and I do want to come back to that question of the transition from college or high school for that matter to full time work, but thinking about sort of what does success look like? Let's say a year or two into early career, and the goals that you have for the employees that you're working with. What do you want them to uh, what do you want them to develop, and kind of what maybe another way of thinking about it is what are the characteristics of the people who stand out as highly successful in early career, the people who really go on to grow quickly and make an
Mhm.
impact.
Well, I will say I am still somewhat new to my current role, so
Mm.
I'm speaking from some personal experience here, going a ways back in my career. But what I
Hmm.
will say, some of the when I see someone really progressing quickly and
Hmm.
standing out, there is a hunger, I think, for innovation. So people that are really looking to try new things and get exposure and visibility with their leadership once they get started. So I think, thinking outside of the box, obviously doing a good job in your day-to-day work, but also that above and beyond aspect of showing up, getting creative, investing in yourself and your career. So those are some of the things you also have to put time into yourself, whether it's reading books, going to different, taking some different types of workshops, going through our programs that we have as well, and making sure you prioritize that so that you can be your best self. But in addition to that, and I mentioned this when we were doing some of our prep, I think that people who, especially early in their career, are very open to and asking for feedback proactively. They are coachable. They want to know where they can improve, and they take any, o- opportunities to get feedback and act on that feedback. So it can be hard sometimes
Hmm.
to hear those areas of opportunity, and it can be easy to maybe get a little defensive at first, or maybe come up with reasons why you did X, Y, and Z, whatever it might be. There's also, I think, something that's to be said about being coachable, and wanting to improve in those areas as
Hmm.
well. Because you can do really great work and deliver on it, but how you get there is another very important aspect. And I think those are the folks in terms of really working on themselves in those areas and being somebody that people are excited to work with. That's another piece, being someone that your manager is excited
Hmm.
to go and ask for things as well. Those are all things that I think will help people succeed, especially early on as they grow in their careers, because they want to improve.
Hmm. That's really similar to the things that we hear consistently as well in our conversations with employers. I think that's really well put, and especially appreciate the idea that I remember a mentor that we talked to early on, a mentor of early career candidates, who talked about looking for people whom you would want to mentor,
Mhm.
and which I thought was an interesting sort of flip from people who wanted mentoring to people that a mentor would see and be like, I want to mentor that person. I see potential. I see a place to invest in them. And so one of the things that we've sort of wrestled with over time, and I think maybe to some extent everyone does, is how do you teach that kind of stuff? Or is it teachable? Is it learnable? What happens that some people are more like that than others? And then in some sense, where does that happen? In school or out of school or early in school, or does it happen in once you're in work? Uh, does it never happen for some people? That's kind of like a fundamental question for kind of how learnable or teachable that is. And I wonder, you talked a little bit about the difficulty in transition for you, right when you left college and which is also something we hear very consistently. And there's kind of a lot of stuff going on there. Some part of that seems, it's a big transition. It's always going to be a little difficult. But to your point, obviously you've been successful, and what's differentiating people at that point, and can we, help them along? Or that was just kind of a long
Yeah.
thing. I don't know if there's a question buried in there, but it was really about
Well,
teachability, I guess.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna tell y'all a story,
Excellent.
that I was hesitant to share early on in my career, but that first role out of school, I got fired from.
Mm,
And I've seen a lot of success since then, but I did get fired. I wasn't good at sales in that aspect. It was an outside sales role. It just wasn't for me. Some people are cut out for it. I personally was not. But I remember when my manager had to let me go, she cried.
mm,
And I cried, and we hugged at the end. And it was one of those conversations that I think I'm going back to this piece where I was coachable. I just wasn't good at that type of
mm,
work, right? But I had built a relationship. There's something about building relationships with people and having open, two-way feedback where people can feel comfortable being vulnerable, and being honest and transparent with you, even if it's something that they might be afraid to share with you in terms of
mm,
feedback or whatever it might be. So I say all that to say, even though I wasn't great at that job, I left that role with, you know, uh, not with good relationships still.
mhm,
And so there's a way that you can, and I had to find something else, and that's okay. It's okay to fail at
mhm,
things. You never know unless you try. I tried, and outside sales was not for me. But I say all that to say, I really, I think back on that often when I was so early in my career and I didn't have the confidence, all the time. But I know I always asked for feedback. I tried my best, and I built that relationship where my manager felt like she could be honest with me, and so it
mhm,
wasn't it was a hard conversation, but not for the reasons that, you think letting someone go might be a hard conversation. There was
mhm,
nothing, no bad feelings. And so anyway, I say all that to say in terms of is coachability or willingness to accept feedback a learned or maybe innate
mm,
trait. I don't know for sure. I do think that there are many things though that we can work on, even if it's not innate to you to begin with, even if it doesn't come
mhm,
naturally to you. There are things that you can do to practice that, and I think also it comes in how you present yourself at the end of the day. So take a step back, take a step out of that like defensiveness area. Even if you get feedback, and I might be going off on a tangent here, but even if you get
Mhm.
feedback that doesn't seem fair to you, because you're like, well, I actually did go and do XYZ. There's a perception piece that is fair. There's a perception,
Mhm.
that you have to take into account. There's a reason that you're receiving that feedback. Even if you did the work really well, there's a perception that or, even if you're getting feedback and you're like, no, but I disagree because there's a perception piece. And so you have to be cognizant of how people perceive you, how people perceive your work, and how you're engaging with others. And I think when you, take a step back and realize, even if feedback doesn't seem fair, there's a reason why I'm getting this, and I need to I need to work on whatever reason is. Maybe I didn't communicate well enough what I was doing. Maybe I didn't do like take a step back and understand that people are usually only giving feedback to you because they want you to succeed. That might help shift your mindset and how you receive that feedback,
Mhm.
and take it in.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's great.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, and not just because I also had a failure in my first sales job when that was a part-time job, luckily, but my bike got stolen while I was working that job, so I lost more money than I made in that summer.
Of course.
But that was a sign. So, but I really appreciate how we talk about a lot about failure in gesture as well, and we hear lots of conversations about failure. I think that are really actually success stories. So someone is talking about a success, they are a successful person off it, well, like you are in this case, but and they sort of talk about a failure as if it was a kind of linear path or a simple path to wherever they are, which is fine. We need to that to me seems a little bit more like a resilience story, which is also important. But I think what you're getting at is, and what we talk less about is the actual experience of failure itself, and in the moment when it's bad. Usually we're telling the failure story after it's good, and it worked out okay, and we don't usually tell a failure story right in the middle of wow, everything's bad and it's never going to turn out well. But I think that then doesn't help people get through the moment when it actually is bad. And that's the part where, talking about, like you said, about just recognizing that even if we disagree, that perspective is real at some level. And that skill, I think, of processing the failure while you're in it seems, I think, much more important and probably, I'm just guessing, related to growth than people who can look back on it like 10 years later and say, after they're already successful. When you're already successful, it's easy to look back on the failure. Like, I don't care about that bike now. It would sucked back then. So I wonder, is that something that you see in the people that you work with, early career candidates, and even going back to your experience in Amazon, but and how you see people handling or what kind of advice you would give to them then. So let's say in their first year on the job or something, because it may not be as overt as getting fired, but smaller failures and really in some sense everything is a little failure and a little success, and are there principles then that you would carry to those moments?
Yeah, I think you can't control what happens,
Mm,
all the time. You can control how you react to those things. I know this is
mm,
not like a, new advice, but sometimes uh, faking it till you make it is just
mm,
the way to go. So even if you feel like inside you are just so disappointed or angry or frustrated in the failure at that moment, controlling how you act and finding the right people to vent to. The right people to vent to is not that's not your manager.
mm,
Right? For most of the time, you can be
mhm,
honest with your manager, but the right people, you have to find the right people to really share frustrations and vent to, and think about putting on a strong front in the moment. It's easier said than done, but that can help also when it comes to your reputation and your brand. Everybody gets frustrated. Everybody has to deal with failure. Everybody has imposter syndrome at the end
mm.
of the day. But it's how you present yourself that you can control. And again, I don't know if I'm directly answering your question again, but I do think it's when you are faced with those trials
Mhm.
and, you know, put on a strong face and vent to the right
Mhm.
people later.
Mhm.
Vent to your friends, vent to your family, to your parents, or whatever it might be. Maybe, something like that. And don't bring out those frustrations in the workplace. Take it in stride while you can.
Mhm.
And, uh, and, and that's what you can do at that time. And I will say this going back to when I was let go. Also be honest with yourself
Mhm.
about the failures. When I was let go, I was like, wow, I'm surprised I didn't do this a few months ago. Like,
Mhm.
so I was honest. Like at the end of the day, I was honest with myself. I'm like, if I were in that person's shoes, if I was in my manager's shoes,
Mhm.
what would I have done? Right. Like trying to put yourself in other people's perspective and understand where they're coming from and what you would do in those situations and handle it. There's sometimes you just have to be self-reflective,
Mhm.
be honest with yourself, and figure out from that failure, what did I learn and what am I going to do differently next time? And make sure you implement the changes, right?
Mhm.
Don't keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting the result to be different.
Mhm.
Um, Learn from it always.
That's great, very concrete advice actually about venting and kind of understanding how to process things in a way that doesn't damage your professional reputation,
Mhm.
or sort of burn bridges or close off opportunities, even though you recognize that you do need to like process that more than just ignore it. And so I think that's the kind of concrete guidance that actually is really useful to people to understand kind of how to navigate stuff when it happens. Um, I wonder if I appreciate that we've sort of, and this is a discussion that we have a lot here, kind of looking for some general principles, right? Like, what are the things that apply across all different kinds of failures? Like, we could imagine, like, if a particular situation happens, here's how you might deal with it. But I think, like, what you're talking about is a general kind of principle or guide or tip or whatever that would apply across all situations. Something's going to go bad. That's always going to happen. And you're always going to need to vent, and just being self-aware about how you do that, and giving yourself space to do that, but also protecting your professional identity. Um,
Mhm.
I wonder, when you look back on your time as an undergraduate and then the the transition that you had, not necessarily specific to sales, but just the general kind of transition to professional, being a full-time professional, what would you have done differently? Now, really, people when they're older see lots of things that they honestly would never have done when they were younger. But as that being the case, um, uh, yeah, what would you, kind of looking back, how could you have prepared differently or done something, practiced, worked on something that would have, prepared you better for the difficult transition to professional, full-time professional life, which is just going to be difficult at some level no matter what, because it's a big
Yeah.
transition. But
I think that while I was in school, I I picked a degree that seemed it had the least math and science classes
mm,
that I had to take. So, I could have been more strategic about the degree that I
mm,
chose to get. I am grateful. Obviously, everything I did led me to where I am today.
mhm,
So,
mhm,
I wouldn't necessarily go back and change all of this,
mhm,
but I do. I think that the what I learned in college, I learned presentation skills, I learned writing skills,
mhm,
I learned, time management, some of those other things that you can take into the workplace. But when I talk about my degree, public relations, I haven't used that at all in my
mhm,
professional career. That degree and the internships that I did and the activities that I did in school, I was in a lot of different activities and clubs and organizations. I had several different types of internships. I worked part time all throughout school and had full time either internships or jobs in the summer. Those things got me my first job.
mhm,
My strong resume and the degree itself got me my first job, got my foot in the door. That job that I got fired from got me my next job
mhm,
because I had that 1 year of sales experience. Even though
mhm,
I wasn't great at it, I was able to be successful in inside sales for a period of time. And so all those things led me to where I got. But I think um, I could have been more strategic about thinking about what type of what do I see as success in the future. And it's very hard to put yourself there,
Mhm.
early when you're in university. But am I going to be motivated by compensation? Am I going to be motivated by a title? Am I going to be motivated by the type of work that I'm doing? Do I want to give back to the community and other things? Like what matters most to me? And find a degree that is going to get you a job in that space. Because I think part of my success, it was a little bit of luck. I applied to a job at the right time at a tech company, and I was able to get that first role, get my foot in the door. And then while I was there, I did good things and I was able to get promoted and see success over time. But getting that first job is sometimes a little bit of luck. So if you have the right degree and you've chosen the right field that you want to go into, and you have a little bit more solid plan than I had for myself at the time, it'll be easier for you to get to that kind of ultimate goal that you have. I
Mhm.
hope that makes sense. I did not when I was choosing public relations, I was not thinking, what is the type of lifestyle I wanna have in 10,
Mhm.
15, 20 years? Am I going to be able to accomplish that with that type of degree? And so, again, I think part of my success was obviously hard work, but it was a tinge of luck as
Mhm.
well.
Mhm. I think that's a path that we hear a lot. In fact, of all the years talking to alumni, talking to students, the number of people who just said, "I knew what I wanted to do and I did it," and then did that, I don't even know if we've heard stories like that. Usually, it seems that way in the first path, but then when it pivots, but like you said, I mean, the path that we took to get where we are, that is the path. And if it had been a different path, we wouldn't be here. And so we have to appreciate, whatever got us here. So we like where we are. But I wonder if, kind of following up on that and thinking about the work that you do now, and I know you haven't been in your current role that long, but, um, you know, in some ways, it's an opportunity it's mostly an opportunity to help people grow. And then also sort of implicitly, it's a way to critique or to see critically where it is they need to grow. They're not, people really need, our early career employees really could work on X or on Y. And some of those things we've talked about. And as you talked about the transition, and again, not specific to any job, but, um, talking about hard work and time management and focus and openness to feedback. Those things seem like they are not specific to any like any major or anything like that. But I wonder what you think about um, sort of that pass off from, let's just focus on college at the moment, from college to full time work. Whose job is it to prepare people for what parts? You know what I mean? And I would say that in our conversations with employers, most employers, well, I would. This is what I would think if I were them too. Most employers would say, yeah, it'd be better if you college people did a little bit more of the things that I need, so I didn't have to train them when they got here. So that's fine. That's totally understandable. And that's probably right, actually. But I think we tend to be a little bit more inward focused especially in liberal arts and thinking about what we want students to learn while they're here. And I wonder, yeah, where you would think, so let me make this into a question, long rambling into a question. Yeah, if you could say it would be great if college prepared people in these ways that would make them better prepared when they hit the ground
Mm.
uh, in early career.
The companies I have been at, there's a lot of continued learning and
Mm-hmm.
development that is given to employees, and there's great workshops out there. Some of those things are also, they seem very common sense, but if you've never heard it or
Mm-hmm.
never been exposed to it, it can be hard. So there are things that I think, uh, and maybe it's happening like just inherently at university, but just like the most basic skills when it comes to mm, and again, it's the soft skills, but if there was a class that was like Outlook, This is this is how you
Mm,
should, manage your Outlook, how you should engage with leaders, request meetings, whatever it might be, as an example.
mhm,
So maybe that's even more. I can bring it up a level, like the understanding your audience.
mhm,
What do they need to know? Um, and again, you can do that a little bit through like presentations in school, but speaking, being able to articulate your thoughts, whether it's in written or verbal, is very important in any role in the
mhm,
corporate world. And um, I know that there's like a Toastmasters organization where you can work on public speaking,
mm,
outside of school or maybe even in school. But if there was some more formalized, like a class, like corporate world, you're going to need to, let's have a section on executive presence, let's have a section on understanding your audience, what do they need to know and how to present to them, how do you tailor your message to leadership, to your stakeholders and peers that you're working with, how do you tailor your message to the customer at the end of the day, whatever it might be. If you're going to have a role where you're engaging with people, which eventually, even if that's not happening right off the bat when you start, it's probably going to happen sooner than it used to, because AI is taking on a lot of
mm,
that very administrative stuff that early career folks might do as soon as they get out of school. So you might be put in that spotlight a little bit faster.
mm,
Maybe I'm rambling a bit here, but I do think that the executive presence piece, understand your audience, the verbal and written communication style and skill, and being able to articulate your point and influence others, get buy-in, gain consensus, all of those things are really important that I don't know are explicitly
mm,
taught. You might get that through certain classes, but I don't know, maybe it is now, an explicit course or focus while you're in school.
mhm.
You can tell me if that's if I'm wrong though on
No,
that piece.
no, you're being generous. I mean, uh, I think you're right that that is something that universities want people to learn for sure. Now, whether they actually learn it, I mean, let me ask. I don't want to put you on the spot, but when you think about in the workshops that you give, right, and even back at Amazon, you're interacting with people in their first year or two, right? Do they all seem like that? Or actually, even think about candidates, because I'm trying to think about people who don't get to. Do they all seem like they have strong writing, communication, thinking, collaboration skills?
Well,
You
I
can
will
be.
say there was an instance at Amazon where there was someone that we hired, and within like 2 or 3 months, he had written up a proposal for a new
Mm,
sort of training program that they could do. And he brought it to me and he brought it to some others. And I was so impressed by that because he quickly identified a need, wrote up a proposal for
mhm,
it. And it was just, that was nowhere in his job description. A lot of people might see that there's a gap or issue and they might complain about it,
mm,
or they might, ignore it, and just go on like, I've got, my day to day to do. I got to figure out. This individual was like, they noticed the gap, they thought of a solution, and proposed a way to get it done. Now, I think those are the people that really stand out.
mhm,
I think
mhm,
so. It wasn't necessarily that he had the perfect writing skills or
mhm,
presentation skills at that point, but he was able to present an idea that he had,
mhm,
and he had the courage and confidence to do that as well. That's really hard, especially like, is it my place? Am I allowed to make recommendations? Yes, you are. You should absolutely go in and make recommendations when you see an area of opportunity. I think that's great. That will help you stand out as an employee, and that will help you grow fast as well, because you start off with that stuff and you're quickly on a track for more responsibility, more
mm,
complex, projects, and more opportunities to prove yourself, or more opportunities to succeed, honestly, at the end of
mhm,
the day, because you've shown that you want to do more, right?
mhm.
Um, I feel like I keep answering questions, maybe not in the exact way that you're
No, no,
looking,
that's
but
that. Thank you for interpreting them, and that's a really. I think that's a great example, and really matches something that we hear a lot as well about in two ways. One, in that it's not that common, so they do stand out, which is a point of information for us to. But also that what I think you described it well. Like, what did they do? They took initiative and went above and beyond. But they also, I liked how you mentioned that they sort of saw a problem that needed to be solved. And that part, I think, we do, in our experience in school, we do see students who will try to go what they in ways that they perceive to be above and beyond, but kind of in the bounds of the assignment, really. And the ability to figure out what someone else's problem is, that does seem to be a differentiator in a way that what someone else needs rather than just what you need. That one consistently comes up. And to your point, I could imagine someone writing a proposal. I liked your comment about or just complain about, because that also feels like that would be the very common reaction. Or a proposal that you can imagine two people make a proposal like that. One is really more about them, and one is more about the company or the goals or the mission or the organization. And that basically solves your manager's problem versus solves their own problem. And that's something that we hear consistently, that the people who can basically solve other people's problems really, those are those people you want to promote.
Yeah. I think too, and this applies to everyone,
Mm-hmm.
not just early career people starting out their roles, but being really solutions focused
Mm-hmm.
versus a problem. Like, see a problem, think of a solution, then go to your manager and say, "Hey, I saw this happening. I wanted to get your opinion. I've thought of these two solutions for it,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it might be. What are your thoughts?" And rather than going to your manager and saying, "Hey, this is an issue. Help me," right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's fine. You can ask. It is important to ask
Mm-hmm.
for help, but it's very important. You are not required in your role to figure everything
Mm-hmm.
out on your own. But there's also a way to present yourself as a solutions person versus a problems person at
Mm-hmm.
the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I see that also helps people stand out, because when you are just out there, kind of using your manager or others as a sounding board for ideas for solutions that you
Mm-hmm.
might have, even if they're not the right solutions, that also helps build your brand as a person that is working to think on how to improve things. And, versus again, um, seeing a problem, saying, "Oh, this is terrible," and just only talking about the negative.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's a positive aspect of it, and managers love solutions-focused people. So,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something that I have found, as well. I hate to go to my manager with problems. I do ask for help, but I like to present options for solutions
Mm-hmm.
and ask for their feedback.
I really like that. I want to go back to something that you said about AI. We've been having a sort of an ongoing conversation about AI in early career, but I appreciate you said you kind of had a different take I hadn't heard before, which was thinking about how AI would change uh, when in someone's sort of career path they might be in front of other people or in front of me. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but if you talk more about what you said there.
Yeah. I think, and this isn't the case in every role, or every company or every job, but sometimes when you are coming in and you are, you're transitioning out of university, the responsibilities that you are given or the role that you might be hired into, because it's an entry level role, may be a little bit more behind the scenes, which is normal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking from a recruiting perspective. If you're coming in and you're a new grad and you are starting out as a recruiter, they might have you behind the scenes scheduling interviews,
Mm-hmm.
right? There might be a time when all of that scheduling is automated through AI,
Mm-hmm.
right? Versus like gathering availability from the candidate and the interviewers, reconciling all of that, cleaning everything up, sending out notifications. Like and I don't know that anything is at that place right now in the immediate, but I can see everything getting more
Mm-hmm.
automated and getting there. So then what happens to those roles? Well, I think that it just, we still need early career talent. People need a place to start and grow into, and it's not going to be feasible for every company to go out and just hire only experienced folks coming into the organization. So it may push, early career talent to be front and center
Mm-hmm.
sooner in front of customers, or stakeholders, or in front of their internal team. There might not be as much of an opportunity to sit in the background for as long before transitioning. I think that there is a level then of ownership on a company to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that people have the training and support they to be successful if they're having to move into that sooner rather than later. And so there's going to be more there. But and again, this is a very generalized take here, but I do think that that engagement piece
Mm-hmm.
and working with
Mm-hmm.
others and being, a thought, not necessarily a thought leader from the beginning, but a little bit more in front instead of behind is going to be, that's where I think it might go. We'll see if I'm right or wrong for the next few years.
Well, I feel like scheduling, if there's anything that everyone would want to give up, scheduling would be one of the things they'd want to give up to AI. But I really appreciate thinking about what that means for an early career. For somebody in early career, it's like shifting of, not only what you would need to know and what skills matter, like soft skills, like you mentioned, but also just sort of rethinking the trajectory a little bit and how fast growth happens or how it happens or what the drivers of individual growth are and how you find opportunities. And it does feel like there's a more subtle kind of, it's not just AI takes your job, but it in some ways requires that you mature a little more quickly into something closer to a mid-career person in some ways in terms of being able to be self-directed and intentional about things. It kind of accelerates the need
Mhm.
to, or at least provides that opportunity maybe. We're still wrestling with this as well, but that I appreciate that perspective. Um, are there other ways in your current work that you've seen AI kind of come into early career, changing either what you're doing or what people need to know? Or
Well, I am not as close to the actual work
mm,
that some of our early career folks are doing. I'm definitely more in that professional skills, soft skills space.
uh-huh,
I'm sure that there are areas that I know that there are areas that
mm,
AI is actually changing the work that people do. It's probably more job specific and job focused.
mm,
Um, you know, and now I'm not in the recruiting space anymore,
mm,
but I know that like if I do look at resumes every so often, or I'm working with, colleagues of mine who are looking for roles, not who are currently employed, but colleagues who are looking for work right now.
mm,
Because there's a good chunk of folks out there.
mm,
AI is on their resumes now, like how they use
mm,
AI, how they've implemented AI in their roles, or whatever it might be. So I think that might be a way, or something that's changing. Like, how are you using AI to, um, you know, not do the work for you, but to uh, make you more efficient,
mhm,
improve your work. Like maybe your AI is proofreading for you. Maybe you've got some AI, you know, helping make your schedule more efficient, or looking at how you manage your time and making suggestions on how you can do things better. Like, and I'm thinking if you're, not working right now, some ways that you might be able to
mm,
try to improve how you work, how you operate in your day to day.
mhm,
Those are things I think that like being able to, and again, maybe I'm sounding so millennial here and I'm not as close enough to it. Like Gen Z might be like, we already know all of this, but I think too, like using AI in your day to day, like your grocery list, right? Or
mm,
like meal planning, or all of those things, being able to really build out strong prompts and guide AI, not just a
mhm,
simple prompt that, like getting good results out of AI. I think that's another thing that's, out of like a chat GPT or something like that. That's something that is important that I'm seeing
mm,
grow. And so I say all this to say I'm not an AI expert, y'all, obviously, as you can hear me talking about it. But there are ways that you can go about implementing that and using it in your day to day that will set you up for success at work later on.
mhm, mhm. I appreciate that because really that's the position that college students would be in as well, right? Like the years that they're in college, in some ways preparing for, what can they be doing as they're
Mhm.
doing college or doing school, or maybe even high school students. I don't know uh, to prepare for when they do need to go and find full time work and engagement in every day. I think that's a good that makes sense to me as well. Um, to not just think of it as a thing you're going to learn later on, for work,
Yeah.
but a thing that you can.
Use it in your job search too, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
areas you can improve your resume. Write your resume on your own first, is my suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
Be really specific with it and then ask for ways that you can improve it, right? Or ways that you can improve your LinkedIn profile,
Mm-hmm.
helping you more quickly write cover letters by providing a lot of background on your experience, what you've done, and strong prompts, right? The better the prompt, the better the result at the end of the day. So you can use it in your job search, as well.
Mm-hmm. Just to follow up on this particular thread, are there other things that you would advise current students to be doing? Not seniors about to apply for a job, but let's say sophomores or juniors or somebody who still has a couple of years in school. What kinds of things could they be doing that are kind of medium range development, right? Things that would take a couple of years of practice that they should think about doing while they're students that would help them. Granted, the world that they're going to graduate into in 2 years, I have no idea what that looks like, 'cause things are
Yeah.
changing quickly. But yeah, just kind of bringing some of those early career recommendations back into pretty early career.
I'm going to be very broad again. I
Yeah,
think
that's
that
great.
having actual work experience
Mm-hmm.
is important. Get not only for your resume, but like for your own, like to understand what does working 40 hours a week actually look
Mm-hmm.
like and how is that going to feel. It's if you haven't done that in the past, it is going to feel very abrupt. When you get your first job and you're put in that in space, and like yes, there's a lot more opportunities now where you're not always like in an office with the no sunlight or whatever it might be, in a cubicle. Like
Mm-hmm.
the world is different now. There's a lot more hybrid opportunities, or if you are in an office, like a lot of companies will try to do things to invest in like your like having a ping pong table or bringing food into the office and other ways, to do that. But I think that getting that work experience, no matter what that work experience is, it does not have to be the most ideal, perfect internship,
Mm-hmm.
but showing that you are so beyond just getting used
Mm-hmm.
to what that work feels like. And I understand people are in school, like that's very time consuming. But if you're not taking classes in the summer, there's opportunities to also get work to fill your time. Take a break. Obviously, enjoy this time
Mm-hmm.
before moving into work while you have it. But think of ways, to get some exposure to
Mm-hmm.
what it is like to work a full-time
Mm-hmm.
role. That is going to help you transition personally. Now, from your resume perspective, also having those positions will just show that you are employable. If you go back
Mm-hmm.
to the same, I was a lifeguard. I went back to the same pool. Um, every summer for a few summers, and then I
Mm-hmm.
worked year round through college at the pool at my university. And I think it shows like employability. Obviously, you're not going to be. It shows that you're able to stay somewhere for a long time and not have major issues, right? Like you're able to show up to work on time. Whatever it might be, you're not. Unable to hold on to a role for other reasons. Those are just good things to show continuity on your resume, I
Mm-hmm.
think, to show that you are eager and ready to
Mm-hmm.
work as well, and that you keep yourself busy. Those are all great things to have. And again, it does not have to be the perfect, most ideal, glamorous internship that you have on your resume. Those are great, obviously. That's
Mm-hmm.
wonderful. But those other jobs that are either part-time or full-time or during the summer, whatever it might be, um, whether it's at a coffee shop or
Mm-hmm.
a lifeguard at a pool or teaching swim lessons or whatever it might be, those are all really great things to include, and have experience in.
I appreciate that recognition that the work experience is more about sort of learning what work is and a work identity is as much as it is the specific, skills or line on the resume, which also matters, like you said. But that shock, I think, is um, something that we don't talk enough about. I remember I had a summer position that was 40 hours a week, and I did not think I was going to survive the first day. It was it was like I'd been there like 3 hours. Like, it must be 5 o'clock already. I was like, no, it's not even lunchtime. It's like, how can people do this? People cannot. This is impossible. And that I just that's all I remember about that. Actually, I don't remember what I was doing. I just remember how long everything seemed. Now I wish I was working 40 hours a week, but
Yeah,
so
some of that first 40-hour-a-week job when if you're inside, because I've been used to working outside. I
yeah,
got this internship where I was inside. It was a retail intern, like a retail manager internship. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't see the sun.
yeah,
I'm like, this day is so long. Like it felt unbearable. Sometimes I'm like, I don't know how
yeah.
people do this. You know, I'm like, I gotta take like 10 bathroom breaks throughout the
Totally.
day because I don't know what to do with myself. It was really, really hard at first. And it's okay to admit that it's hard, but it takes some getting used to, you
Hmm.
know. So gearing up for that ahead of time is going to make the transition, when then, if maybe you're going through university and paying, for it yourself and
Hmm.
you're already having to go through all that. Or, maybe when you graduate, or maybe you have support from family or parents. And then when you graduate, like the bills are on you type of
Hmm.
thing. That pressure, plus having to figure out how to work 40 hours a week, it, it's a lot. It
Yeah.
can be very overwhelming. And so try to get that out of the way ahead of time. Understand
Hmm.
what it's going to be like. And, find a job where you're not dreading
Hmm.
going to work each day. I was dreading that sales job every day. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to go in. And like I remember it was like my boss's boss. He told me one day, it's like, you see that high rise over there? It's like, I want you to go into that high rise and hand out your business card to as many people as possible and get information, on like the stakeholder, whatever it might be, the people to sell this payroll software to, until security kicks you out. And I'm like, that's not for me. I'm like, I cannot physically do that. It was so emotionally draining. So also thinking about the right field. For some people, that is so
Hmm.
easy. They're so great at it
Hmm.
and they see a lot of wonderful success. So find something also that is bearable.
Hmm.
And you can also find joy in. And part of that is finding, a great team and a good manager to work for. And it's some trial and error sometimes.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Anyway, those are all things that'll help you be happy at
Totally.
work.
Did you
Well, Melissa, this is all phenomenal. One of the things in the sort of recurrent themes that I keep hearing, and I've been noting this, and it goes back to your sort of origin story. Um, it wasn't just school that got you that job, right? And
Mhm.
so, one of the big questions we have from our students, and we feel like this is also an argument that we have with faculty here at the university, is that inherently school gives you these valuable skills. And I think they might even proffer up that they teach those things, some of the things that you said you were looking for, when the reality is, and I've heard this time and time again, and today I feel like it's really been embodied by your own experience, school helped, school accentuated, or maybe sped up the process of I'm an employable person because the degree signals certain levels of adulting, for lack of a better word. But the stuff that was peripheral to that, I held a lifeguard position, I didn't get fired, or um, all these other experiences, I feel like one of the things I'm hearing is it can't just be school. It's not just the degree, particularly since your degree field is something that you've said you've never even used. It really feels like it's something beyond just coursework that gets people that first job.
Yeah, I have another story to tell you from that first job. Same guy that told me to get kicked out of the high rise by security. He was the one that interviewed me. He came to my school and he interviewed me. And I remember going in, and so it was like back to back interviews. And so he had just interviewed another girl, and I walk in there and I hand him my resume, and he was like, "Oh, this is," because I had a lot of things listed. He's like, "Oh, this is what I'm talking about." He held up the other girl's resume. I don't recommend working at this place. Held up this other girl's resume and was like, "Look at this. There's nothing on here." And he threw it on the ground in the interview. I don't know why I took a job here after that, but I did. And but it just, I think, goes to show that is not how all employers act. But
Hmm.
we were going to the same school. We were both graduating. We probably had, she probably had a fine GPA. I don't know what her GPA was,
Mhm.
but it's not everything. Like the thing that made my resume at the time stand out was all of the extras. So the organization, I was in band. Of course, I was a marching band person. I was in band. I had that lifeguard job. I had I had, I think, 3 internships throughout school. And then I was also in other organizations at the school, like in the honors college or other clubs and organizations as well. And so I had a whole list, of all my extracurricular activities, the work that I had done, the internships I had held. And I think that is what, like, when a company is going out and they are interviewing hundreds of college candidates, they are looking for what is different on the
Mhm.
resume. And because they're all at the same school. If they're going out and doing, like, interview after interview, they're all at the same school. So what's going to make you different from your peers? What's going to differentiate you and get you noticed when you're in a sea of other very similar,
Mhm.
like candidate profiles at the end of the day. And I think it's those extras. And also how you show up in the interview, of course. You've got to practice that.
Mhm.
That's a big piece. Like the resume gets you noticed, and the interview is how you close the deal, right? So practicing that is very important.
Huge, huge. Well, and the other piece is the one thing that all of those students, you and that poor young woman's resume who ended up on the floor, the one thing that you did have in common were the classes, right? You all had college, a certain number of credits, certain number of semesters and quarters and grades earned. That was never going to be the differentiator. And I feel like we've got a few students here who think the courses and the grades are the differentiator. So it's very refreshing to hear that.
Grades, it's all great grades, try your best, obviously, get good grades. But think beyond how you're gonna make yourself stand out and get noticed when a recruiter or a company is looking at hundreds and hundreds of similar resumes.
Yeah. My other follow up, and I'll just make this one really fast, is talking about that moment when you were leaving that first sales job and the tearful goodbye with the manager, right? To me, when you tell that story, what I'm hearing is, all right, I might not have been good. And when you talk about sending someone into a high rise with business cards, I think a lot of students are going to hear this and go like, that is my nightmare, my
Yeah.
nightmare. So shared nightmare territory there. But the flip side of that is you must have done something during that time with your manager that signaled some of these other things. Like, she wanted to keep working with you, right? Even if you weren't great in that role, you, Melissa, the person who showed up and did what you did, engendered that connection. And I wonder if you can just speak briefly to that.
Mm. I can't say for certain, what she may have latched onto, but the way that I operate in life is I try to remain and be a positive person. I am not overly worried about what people think about me, but I do want people to, and I think they always say, right, that people don't remember exactly what you say or what you did, but they remember how you made them feel. And so I always try to go in and be a person that people enjoy working with. So I don't know exactly what I did back then. I know what I do now. I think back then, I should probably, I don't know. I don't know. I think I was just a positive person. Even when I was, going through some challenges, I would ask her for feedback. I'm like, please help me. What can I do differently to close this deal or, to think differently in my mindset or to get, more confident in getting kicked out of high rises because that, was a fun thing to do. But I think again, maybe it goes back to that willingness to receive feedback and be someone that a manager is not dreading a feedback conversation with, where they know that they want you to be successful, right? Like, that's why you're getting the feedback. So be that positive person, try to be solutions focused, and, try to work with people in a way that they don't dread getting on a meeting with you. Uh, don't be that person. Be the person that, even if you're doing some work that, oh, I feel like this might be stepping on somebody else's toes, incorporate people in, bring them into your thought process, bring them into what you do, be a collaborative, engaging person, and you'll see a lot of success at the end of the day. So practice that with your group projects, right?
Mm.
And how you work with others. I hated group projects in college because I ended up being the one that did the project and then, by myself,
Mm-hmm.
basically, or sometimes with one or two other people. But yeah, be a person that people are excited to work with. Practice now on how you engage with others and collaborate.
That's perfect.
Yeah, we talk a lot about school group projects and how they're often, I mean, when I would teach, I would use them a lot. I know I had certain kind of teaching goals, which now when I look back, I'm sure were never really accomplished, but they would always end up that same way where one or two people did the work of the group. And you're talking about that made me think, oh, maybe we should just use that as a predictor of success. Are you the one person who did all the work in your group project when, because that person probably, person actually does get stuff done. I wonder if we could just end with you talking a little bit about the work that you did at Amazon and in the development side, and maybe just talk briefly about what that program was and kind of what you took away from that.
Yeah, we were focused on creating new talent pipelines to hire from and making sure
Mm.
people were set up for success. So, the natural when we talk about early career, what comes to mind are 4-year degrees
Mm-hmm.
from a university. But we were also exploring types of roles and opportunities for individuals who may have gone to community college and received an associate's degree, people
Mm.
who had gone to different types of trade schools and had certifications, and even high school graduates, whether they were fresh out of high school or had worked for any number of years in an unrelated field. How can we train, onboard them, and set them up for success? Now, those roles are going to be probably fewer and far between when you're talking about like the corporate world or working in tech or whatever it might be. But there are opportunities to, I think, build your path and make your way. It might just take a little bit longer to get to the end goal, but there are more companies, I think, shifting to that model and
Mm.
figuring out what types of roles actually require a degree versus what types of roles can we train people and help them grow in their career. And there are different fields, that you can go into there. So that's a little bit of the type of work I did there. We were very focused on these different pipelines and training people on the job and giving them an opportunity that they would not have had otherwise. And it was a very rewarding program and role that I had there, and life changing for many of the people that went through it. And I think again, there's a lot of companies are going to be headed in that
Mm.
direction soon. And it doesn't mean that degrees are irrelevant. I think it just means that you can be, you know, more selective about like if you know what type of role you might want to do, which is very hard when you're 18 and
Mm-hmm.
trying to decide what to do with your life. But if you know that there might be an opportunity for you or something else, like um, just be selective about the degree that you are spending your money on
Mm.
at the end of the day, because it's not cheap to go to school and get those degrees. And I think it's important to be strategic about these 4 years or more that you're spending all this money on, all this time and effort on, finding a degree that's gonna be relevant and that is going to set you up for success in the long run.
So were those positions, the new pipelines that you created, had those positions previously required a college degree, the ones that you were creating a new pipeline into?
Yes,
Mm.
they typically, or if not a degree, a number of years of experience,
Oh,
whether that
okay.
was experience in the military,
Mm-hmm.
or other places, but there was no, we figured out ways to
Mm.
bring people in with no experience
Mm-hmm.
and set them up for success and help them with their career trajectory
Mm-hmm.
to promote and become managers and leaders. And it was a fun program to work on.
Mm-hmm. Did you take away any kind of lessons for yourself about early career and pathways? I mean, I think you talked a little bit about
Mhm.
the there's lots of ways to get there. Some take
Yeah.
longer, and some, but other that sort of you bring to this current work, or just thinking about like us, like what is the most, how do we think about this general process where people kind of come through that stage of their lives from, let's say, high school into whatever they're going to do for the rest of their lives? And it's complicated, lots of things, lots of different directions, pathways, things go wrong, things go right. But kind of getting a sense of what really matters in that transition.
Well, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but if you're coming in with very little experience, you have
Mm-hmm.
got to be coachable. I said
Mm-hmm.
that at the beginning. I'll say, I'll bring it full circle. Please, for the love of it, be coachable. Be ready to um, get tough feedback,
Mm-hmm.
make changes on it. And I know, again, I sound like a broken record. I've said it over and over. Maybe that's the theme of today. But figure out how to be a coachable person that people and leadership see as someone who has upward growth potential.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's great. That's a great way to end it, actually.
I do. We got our work cut out for ourselves. We got a lot of uncoachables. We'll do a new episode, unhireable and uncoachable.
Yeah.
Unhireable to coachable.
Courtesy of Melissa.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. Well, I just want to thank you for taking the time to come in and talk with us. This has been really, really helpful for us, and I think for everyone watching the podcast to kind of connect some of the general stuff that we talk about here and that people think about in universities to what's going on right now out in the world of employers. So we really appreciate that.
Very, very much so.
I appreciate y'all listening to all of my stories. I have so many stories always to share. So it was a really fun conversation, and I just appreciate you having me on.
Want to hear more from Gesture? Check out the rest of the Unhireable podcast on YouTube and Spotify. For even more content, follow us on TikTok and Instagram at gesture_UW.